thank you for listening to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. I'm David Pendergrass. I received a question in the email the other day that said this. I have a question in regards to a recent religious liberty bill. Remember, it was going through Georgia just a few months ago. He says, and Disney plus other big businesses are threatening to boycott the state if the bill's passed. And of course, the Georgia governor went on to veto the bill. My friend asked the question, what's an appropriate way for a Christian to view these types of bills and how modern culture reacts to them? Should bills like this be passed, or is it discriminatory? Is it anti-gay? Do you think Jesus would approve of this? Thanks for your help as always. These are great questions. These really are great questions. The bill he has in mind is what was called House Bill 757. And as far as I can tell, based on the research I've done, it is a bill that is attempting to protect the rights of religious groups to hire or fire, do things and fire people based on their particular religious beliefs. So here's what one news outlet website says, quote, the legislation aims in part to, quote, to provide that religious officials shall not be required to perform marriage ceremonies in violation of the legal right to free exercise of religion, end quote. And the article goes on, and allows faith-based organizations to not hire or provide services to those who, quote, violate such faith-based organizations' sincerely held religious beliefs. So, based on these quotes and others, it seems to me that the bill is simply trying to protect faith-based organizations from being able to not being forced or sued to do things their religion doesn't want them to do. I can't believe this is controversial. That's my view. I can't believe it. If someone comes up to me as a pastor of church and says, I need you to help go murder a person, and I say, no, I can't do that. It's a deeply held religious belief that murder is sinful. If the person want to take me to court and sue me because I would not help them murder, this is the stupidest thing I've heard in my life. David, no one would ever do that. We're not talking about murder. We're talking about all kinds. Of course, this all comes down to gay marriage. That's what it comes down to. But what difference does it make in the Christian worldview, based on Genesis 2, Matthew 19, and many other texts? The view is that God made man and woman together. Now, not every single Christian concurs with that. That's fine. I think they're wrong, and the majority of the church for 2,000 years also thinks they're wrong. But nevertheless, it's a long-standing religious view within Christianity that's a sin, and that's not good. And so if ministers are forced by the state to be marrying people that their religion says they shouldn't marry, that means the state is telling these, of course, religious organizations what to do. And I don't care what the particular view is. If there's a religion that believes eating spaghetti is sinful, and I go ask my neighbor's friend who's the minister at that spaghetti sinful church or whatever, can you make me spaghetti? And they say no, and I sued them. Who are you to say that you can't make spaghetti? Who do you think you are? I was born liking spaghetti. I mean, this is dumb. It's crazy to think that the state could then sue people. Of course, what this means for the outside world is that it means you must hate gay people if you don't want to do whatever they say. Let me say a couple things about that. The first thing I'd say is it is profoundly contradictory and hypocritical. Profoundly. The very people who are boycotting, whole Hollywood studios are boycotting coming to cities or states because of this view. NBA teams are leaving. On and on the stuff is going down because they want to be so welcoming. Georgia's governor, Nathan Deal, he says that the House Bill 757 does not give the image of what it should, in his view of Georgia, that is a state full of, quote, warm, friendly, and loving people. Now, end quote. And then he goes on to say, quote, our people, this is Georgia, our people work side by side without regard to the color of our skin or the religion we adhere to. We are working to make life better for our families and our communities. That is the character of Georgia. I intend to do my part to keep it that way. He said, quote, for that reason, I will veto HB 77, end quote. To that I'd say, You are warm and friendly and loving, except to people who disagree with you. See, this is the inherent contradiction of people who scream until their nose bleeds whether or not that people should be so welcoming and kind. They don't welcome people who disagree with their view. Well, that means you are a hypocrite. Secondly, when he says we work side by side, regardless of the race, the religion, and so forth, great. When bills say that a person, say like me, say I lived in Georgia and I was not compelled to marry the same sex, does that mean I can't work side by side with a person? I don't know what work side by side means, but it seems to me the answer is, of course it doesn't mean that. Does it mean I hate them? No. Does it mean I can't love them? No, it doesn't mean that. Does it mean I won't live by them? No, it doesn't mean that. All it means is that the state cannot require me to do something against my deeply held religious views. That's all that means. So it's both contradictory and hypocritical because the people who are so hell-bent on being welcoming are the most unwelcoming people there are. To say we will not come to your state unless you deny this bill, and it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to the local businesses, is not a warm, welcoming thing to do. The other thing I would say is these things that are considered discriminatory, the people who do that are profoundly discriminatory. It's another way they're being hypocritical. When you block a business or an NBA finals or whatever coming to a state, city, coming anywhere, you are discriminating against views of people who don't hold their views. So I, for one, is a person who won't marry the same sex, which means these people would discriminate against me and deny me the right to go to a local NBA finals game or to work on the film that's being filmed in my city or whatever it is. They're discriminating against me and saying that I can't do it. I can't go to that game locally. Why? Because I'm being accused of being discriminatory. Well, that's what they're doing. See how this is hypocritical. It's just being hypocritical. One more thing I want to say about, maybe a couple more things. Another thing I would say is, when you ask the question, should bills like this be passed? My answer is, it sure seems to me, yes. Now, I don't talk about politics much, but I guess since you brought up the question, it sure seems to me that when the state can tell me what I'm supposed to do with my body, I'm supposed to use my body and mind and mouth to convene over a ceremony for people I don't think should get married, then the state has profoundly violated the Constitution. Profoundly violated. So, yes, I think they should be passed. Anything that protects me from me being forced to do something I don't want to do, absolutely. When it comes to these religious views, absolutely. And then you ask the question, are these bills discriminatory? Well, I just don't see how or why. This is a way to protect the people, like myself as a pastor, not being forced to do something I don't want to do. It's to protect someone. It's a passive bill, not an active bill. The bill is not to go stop people from being married. It's not a bill to go hurt someone, a bill to go stop the traffic. It's a passive act. That is, don't make me do it if I don't want to. I can't fathom how this is discriminatory. It's, in essence, just protecting a person. And you say, is it anti-gay? Again, it seems to me the answer is no. It's a passive way to protect a person not being forced to do what they don't want to do. If it means the same-sex couple cannot get married by a particular church because that particular church doesn't support them getting married, then so be it. It doesn't mean the bill is anti-gay. They can find any other church that supports same-sex marriage, since it's legal, and go there. It just seems to me that's not at all anti-gay. But, of course, this most important question, do you think Jesus would approve of this? That is a great question. I don't know what Jesus would think about the state protecting a person. I don't know. I just seem to stick toward the belief that Jesus would say, even if the state doesn't protect you, you do not violate the commandments of the kingdom of God. You don't do it. Jesus demonstrates that you even can get killed for it. That if you have to, you go to the cross. You go to the cross before you bend on the kingdom of God. So the state protect you, not protect you, whatever. Jesus even said in Mark 13 in the parallel passages that when they bring you into the synagogues and the courtrooms, the Spirit's going to give you the words to say. He didn't say so you can get out of it, so you can escape, run out of there and change your mind and recant your faith. The Spirit will give you the words to say in that moment, to speak the truth. And that's precisely what happened in the earliest few centuries. I mean, you need to read the Pliny the Younger when he writes to his Emperor Trajan. I mean, he tortured 2 deaconesses. I mean, these people were tortured. And they recanted, some didn't, and they were killed because they would not give up their faith in Jesus. That is to say, these quote-unquote deeply held religious views, whether they're protected by the state or they're vulnerable by the state, you don't give in. You don't give in if that's what the kingdom of God teaches. So I do not think Jesus would approve of the church supporting laws that actively hurts a person. That is to say, they violate the kingdom of God commandments found in the New Testament. That is Jesus' teaching. If there any law that violated and said, you need to go beat up gay people, well, that's stupid and it's evil. So no one should support that. No one should support a law that says you need to go hurt them. That's profoundly evil. You shouldn't hurt anybody. You shouldn't hurt murderers and gossips. They should be detained if they can't, people who hurt physically people, if they can't control themselves. So that's when Jesus, I think, would disapprove of laws that break his commandments. But any laws that supported his commandments, I think he would support. That's my view, at least. So it's sad to me that entire cities and states they suffer hundreds of millions of dollars. Sometimes I'm sure over years it'll be the cumulative of billions of dollars. That's a sad deal because some people need jobs. They need income. And they didn't get it only because these large corporations discriminate. They discriminate against people who don't hold their views. And that's sad. Now, I'm a Christian, so I think being mean like that is unkind. But if you're not a Christian, then who gives a rip? Why can't we discriminate? That reminds me of this very last thing. It reminds me of something an NFL spokesperson said. NFL spokesperson said that when a city does not meet the NFL league policies, quote, emphasize tolerance and inclusiveness and prohibit discrimination based on age, gender, race, religion, sexual orientation, or any other improper standard, end quote. Of course, then that means that they don't have to be there. Now, of course, if you're not a Christian, you're just a regular old pagan or any other religion, just a human, the question is, what is an improper standard? How do they define improper standard? Who gets to define that? So they emphasize tolerance and inclusiveness when the person agrees with the NFL. If you disagree with NFL, you are not tolerated and you are not included. I guess you're just judged as a closed-minded person who has an improper standard. My question is, which standard do you use? In the Christian worldview, we have a standard. And the reason why it seems to me that the Constitution has this protection of religious rights is that no other religion or non-religious person can force their standard on someone else. That's why, to me, this law is so important. We should be protected, not to force to be doing something based on the standard that we hold that is different from the standard of anybody else. Those are my thoughts. See you next time. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to A Glimpse of the Kingdom. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you want more, go to davidpendergrass.com, davidpendergrass.com. If you look at the top, you'll see various tabs that have sermons I've preached, a link to all the podcasts I've done so far, a link to my consulting website. For more information about my consulting, see davidpendergrassconsulting.com. Also, you'll see information about the books I've written that are found on Amazon.com. So davidpendergrass.com, one-stop shop, all that you need. If you want to reach out to me, follow me on Twitter at Dr. D. Pendergrass, at Dr. D. Pendergrass, and send me a message. I'll see you online. I gotta run and tell about what the Lord has done for me.